Welcome to the Blind Apex Podcast, where amateur club racers tune in to get faster.
I'm your host, Con Jonturk, and on this episode of the Blind Apex Podcast, we're talking GridLife, specifically GridLife Touring Cup, GLTC as it's known by many, many people. Joining me, a man with Lambo doors on his race car. Pretty sure he was doing that before the drifters caught on. He might go down some semi-conspiracy theory rabbit holes from time to time. A fellow believer in the Y49 curse. If you don't know what it is, just Google it. It's out there on the internet.
Oh, it's real bad, dude.
Yeah, it's real bad. I had one. So, who I consider the busiest man in grassroots motorsports with basically 2 full-time jobs and a podcast himself. Half the voice of the Slip Angle podcast, Adam Jabaay. Welcome to the podcast.
Man, thanks for inviting me. We'll hopefully the internet holds out and we can keep talking the whole night.
Yeah, I mean, both your end and my end seem a little shaky, so you never know what's going to happen.
Well, I recently transitioned to like a whole house 5G internet, so it's been better.
Okay,
but it's still like it's relying on the cellulars. You know what I mean?
Me too. So, I have this box attached to the garage, pointed at a cell tower on a mountain nearby, and that's where the internet comes from for now.
Oh man, such technology for us. We were supposed to start right now, and I've been trying to make all this stuff work for half an hour. So I apologize about my 2 computers, 3 power supplies, multiple USB cables, but we got it.
Yeah.
And our listeners at Slip Angle will probably be happy because I finally figured out how to make the board work on my side.
Yeah, right.
So maybe it'll sound, but maybe I'll sound less like I'm on a phone call.
I mean, I thought you were. To be honest, I thought you were on a phone call. There's lots of ways to get the phone calls in. I was ready to set up my podcaster, the PodTrack P4, and have you call in anyway. So, yeah,
lots of ways to make a podcast nowadays.
Oh yeah, dozens of platforms and all that jazz. But before we get too derailed, a couple minutes into this podcast, Adam, let's go over your racing background.
Man, I wish there was more of it too. I feel like, I mean, we got into doing track day stuff like in 2003. My partner at GridLife, Chris Stewart, and I figured out that you can rent a racetrack in 2004. And it was actually, first time I was at Gingerman was probably like 2001. Gingerman's our home track in South Haven, Michigan. And we figured out that you can rent it if you give them money you don't have and you pool it from all your buddies. So the first year we lost a bunch of money. We hosted our West Michigan Honda meet. And then we just kept doing that. And that event kept growing. It turned into like a pretty wild 3-day party, family reunion style, like a lot of, barbecuing and drinking at night and having a great time. And just a simple DE. We still do it every year. It's kind of the event that shall not be named. And I think in like 2007, a bunch of us went down to Florida. Yeah, 2007 was the first year. Went down to Florida for the Grassroots Motorsports Challenge. And that was like our first competition besides autocross stuff, And so we built a CRX, gutty, because it was gutted. And it had kind of floated around our friend group for a while. The 075 was our friend group name in Michigan. And because some of our core buddies, they lived at 4075 Woodrush, I think, in, Comstock Park, Michigan or something. So we chopped the 4 off and we hung out there, made it the 075. That was our group. We had stickers on the little corner of our cars and stuff. It's kind of our gang for a while. And the first West Michigan Honda meet was a barbecue in the driveway there, like in 2001.
Okay.
Then we did one at the John Ballpark Zoo. We did one at Riverside Park or something in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and then we rented a racetrack. But did some DEs, once a year. And I was starting to instruct and drive with other groups, kind of, between then and like 2010. but did some grassroots motorsports challenge stuff that got us into competition a little bit more. Got a little competitive with that. I was also drag racing a bunch. I had like my current hatchback I've had since I was 19, so like 22 years or whatever. But and that was like a 10-second car, more like street race, rip around, like don't get in trouble kind of street racing, but like get on the highway, do some rolls at midnight with some of the local guys, you know?
Right. Hoodlum stuff we all did.
Yeah, just hood rat stuff, you know. Yeah. But you know, obviously getting older and stuff, and I kept getting drawn into club racing because one of the dudes that helped us with challenge stuff was Tom Lamb, who's still an SCCA club racer, and he's raced in GLTC a little bit at Michigan. He's retirement age. He's like 25 years older than us, but he literally like he was on one of the forums that we were. Chris, my partner, owned ef-honda.com, which now redirects to grid.life. But Tom was on that forum because Tom raced a CRX. And so like, you know, people bought and traded, and that was like the biggest generation specific Honda chassis forum at the or like ever, maybe. I don't know. There was a lot of people on that forum, and it's now kind of defunct because Facebook ruined all the forums. But Tom like wanted to go and help at the challenge down in Florida, and we're like from Chicago and Michigan area, and like I'd never met him, so I just met him at a parking lot, and he rode with me down to Florida, and he kept telling, and I knew about SCCA and NASA club racing stuff because I had like helped a customer of mine in the construction world. I'd like crewed for him a couple of times, and he had like a Miata. It was like a prod chassis Miata with the windshield cut off and stuff. But I knew a little bit about club racing, and I'd done track days. Obviously, we had hosted like 6 or 7 of them at the time. Probably been to 50 or 60 of them. And Tom was telling me all about club racing and how you get into it, how much fun it is. And, you know, all of his friends are there besides, you know, some of the forum buddies. And so I was pretty intrigued. I wanted to do it. And in we won the challenge in 2009. That was the last year I went. We also built another car in like 12 and 13 and sent that. It was a 4-door EF that looked like the Colin McRae, I think, 555 rally car.
Okay.
But it had like Subaru front bumper on it, which is kind of the inspiration for the Subaru front bumper on my EF. They actually fit perfectly, like GC8 bumpers fit perfectly on the EFs, except for they extend back towards the tire too much. But the curve is perfect. But that looked just like the Colin McRae rally car. It was all-wheel drive, small little turbo. It was a cool grassroots build. The grassroots featured it in 2013, maybe before GridLife. It's still floating around our buddy group, but I started wanting to dabble in club racing. So my first instinct was to jump into lemons because, like, you know, $500 car, joke rules, blah, blah, blah. Right. So we built a team, you know, Chris, my buddy Luke, who was our first lead instructor forever. My brother and I built the car. Lee Grimes from Coney gave us an old CRX that we turned into the car. Tom was on the team, and, you know, we towed 2 cars up there. One was the rolling parts chassis. It was a first gen CRX. So we needed, you know, because first gen CRXs are very old in 2010 or whatever. Yeah. We needed extra parts. So we like just threw every first gen CRX part we had into a first gen CRX, and that was the parts car. And so we competed in one of them. The fuel cell sucked. It sucked up a ton of like gunk because it was an old fuel cell with old foam in it. We changed fuel filters like every 40 minutes, and we finished the weekend. It was fun. And then we did another one with a new fuel cell and bigger fuel cell, and you know, a lot of
newer
tweaks to the car. It was new versus 28 years old, right? So a lot of tweaks to the car, and you know, we were all pretty safe, decent drivers and stuff. We were all basically competing for lap time against each other, and just don't crash the car kind of stuff. We never really got any incidents with the car, except for, you know, a couple of pass under yellows, maybe an accident, like when people weren't actually waving yellows. I don't even remember what the penalties were, but very few penalties. The car was super clean. The team was over we did like 10 races with it. We won overall. We won a B class in Lemons at Gingerman in like 2012, maybe. And we won by Lemons is actually pretty competitive usually. And it was over like a 14-hour combined. And I think we won by like 20 laps. And then they kicked us up to A class, and we're like, there ain't no way we're competing with a bunch of BMW 325s and cheaty ass A class. Right. So we got our butt kicked a few more times. And then I had gone to Kansas on the way back from crewing for my buddy's car at Pikes Peak in 2012. My buddy's unlimited car, the Love Fab NSX. And I had picked up a CRX that came with so many spare parts that I knew that I could sell 2/3 of those parts and get a free race car. And I was super broke back then. I'm still pretty much a ham and egger right now that slings a hammer and works on a cell phone all day. But I was flat ass broke. But right. I convinced my wife, like, I can get this race car and it can be a free race car. And she was very supportive. I don't know why.
God bless.
Because I already have I already had 2 race cars. I had my track car, my hatch that I have right now. I have my Lemons car with my brother. And then I want to buy this club race car so I can go race SCCA and NASA, right? It was an ITA CRX. So we picked it up. It had like all the good bits on it at the time. Mm-hmm. It just was not a good sorted out car. And it had like been in the pictures were taken with a potato on the forum that I was buying it off of. And it like looked like a nice car. And I got there and it looked like, like when you're in 8th grade and you've had like pimples your entire life and you're like, man, my face looks like the surface of the moon. That's how the quarters looked. Like it had hit every wall and people had pulled it back out with like hammers.
Right.
And come-alongs and, just unskilled labor. So I get it looking pretty good. I got a lot of dents removed by myself. And then I did this like 2-tone digital camo to like disguise all the wrinkles.
Yeah, hide it all.
I used a gloss tan and a flat gray tan that like matched nicely, but like didn't match. And that sheen differentiation, the car looked straight as an arrow. Like it was great. I nut and bolted, inspected the daylights out of it, checked the tune, and took it to its first track day at Mid-Ohio. I was instructing for ITR Expo 13 maybe, or 12. I don't know. And I get on track. The car turns left or turns right just fine. It turns left very poorly. And we're talking like dangerous feeling. It was the most dangerous feeling car I've ever driven. And there's only a couple of left-handers at Mid-Ohio. There's a bunch of right-handers, and it worked fine in those. So the first time I ever drove the car, and I'm in the bathroom afterwards, and I have to like jump into a student's car. And Mark Kroom, who works for IBOC now, he walks up next to me. He's like, dude, Jabaay, what's up with that CRX? And I was like, I don't know, man. It's the first time I've ever driven. It does not feel good. And he was like, your back passenger wheel had 3 inches of camber change through turn 1. I was right behind you. And I was like, what? and so we figured out that, and you couldn't even, I had inspected the daylights out of this thing, right? You couldn't see the cracks, but if you're familiar with a golden era Honda, like an 88 to 2000, the hub bolts onto the trailing arm, Mm-hmm. And it basically had cracked in the exact shape of the bolt pattern, which is kind of like I think there's 5 bolts back there, like big Torx bolts or whatever, 4 or 5. And they're kind of a weird shape. Mm-hmm. And it had cracked exactly along the edge of the bolts and like dipped into the middle. And I couldn't see the crack unless I knew it was there. So I pulled it all apart and I'm like, dude, there was literally a combined 1/2 inch of metal left before the wheel was going to exit the chat. And so I got really lucky. So I didn't drive it for the rest of the weekend, but we brought our Lemons car also, which Chris and my brother, Jeremy, and I all triple teamed.
Oh,
it's an enduro car.
Yeah.
I mean, the car it was on track. We were all in different sessions. It was on track like 45 of every 50 or every 60 minutes of or 40 of every 60 minutes of the event and never missed a beat. It's a great car. Cause Chris's car also was broken. So we all just drove the CRX, but, so that was my first outing in my race car. And so obviously got a new control arm, rebuilt everything, inspected the daylights out of everything, even sent wheel bearings off to get like treated and, ceramic coated by something blue coatings. I forget, in NASCARville down in Carolinas or whatever. And micro blue coatings is what I used. Got the Carceps hubs when they came out, try to eliminate all the failure points, and then raced ITA a bunch, quite mid-packily because like I didn't have the motor that was great and stuff. I also sold the motor to a buddy of mine who's kind of a wheelman. I never put the motor on a dyno. I'd only like street tuned it, like making sure the air fuels were good. And it always felt like it was down about 15 horsepower. And I sold it to a dude who put it on the dyno when he swapped it in his car, a buddy of mine, Dave O'Malley. And he was like, yo, this thing's down 15 horsepower. And I'm like, so it wasn't just me, like, and I found out it was off a tooth, but still running great. Like, because of the decking and stuff of the head, it was off just enough that you couldn't figure out what was wrong with it. It ran fine, but it didn't run strong. So he like played with the timing, and got that thing to run really strong. It was built by, it had King Motorsports head on it, and the bottom end was built by some reputable shop. I forget who now. But it was just not assembled correctly.
Yeah.
So my ITA races were a waste of time because I was doing it wrong. And then I wanted to jump into Honda Challenge 2 and STL, which was a new class at the time in like 2014. STL was kind of cool because, and Honda Challenge, because I was still going to keep it D series because I had like a couple of pimp D series trannies with like good diffs and everything.
Right.
And STL it was displacement to weight category at the time. And like, I didn't have B swap money at all. I didn't have K swap money. I didn't want to put that weight in my car because K swaps had to be like 2,700 pounds for a K20, which was the displacement limit in STL. Mm-hmm. But a 1.5 liter got to weigh 2,000 pounds flat with the driver. Right.
Right.
2025, I think in STL. And you can't do much aero. You can do like a little splitter. You can do a little wing in STL, like really baby wings. But, so I thought, man, I could probably build a Ripper 1.5 and I have a ton of D series 1.5s laying around.
And they were free at the time.
Yeah. They were like 10 years ago, they were literally negative money. People would pay you to take them. I had probably 8 of them at the time, and I pulled them all apart, found the cleanest one, main bearing wise and rod journal wise and stuff, thing looks solid, real solid. Get it overboard. What did I put in there? I think I put the not ZC pistons. I put some kind of, I think it was ZC pistons. ARP rod bolt, CC pistons, ARP head studs. Had the head worked over by this dude from Puerto Rico, Melvin, and you weren't allowed to port them, but you could do valve jobs. And he's like, bro, valve jobs is like half of the flow in a D series, non VTEC. So like it was like a 15 angle valve job. And I mean, I don't know. The thing made really good power, made 140 with 11-to-1 compression, which was the limit. And 425 lift was the cam limit.
Right.
And this was like a 390 was the most he could regrind out of a stock cam was a 390 before going like a hard weld web cam or whatever. And it made like 140, which is pretty respectable back then, especially. It's even fine now,
In 2,000 pounds, that should be fun.
Yeah, it was really fun. Like at Gingerman, it ran like a 142 on old tires, which is pretty fast at Gingerman, on used crappy tires with OEM 9.6 inch brakes and stuff. And like my ham-fisted fat ass driving it. It was probably 50 pounds overweight because I was 20 pounds overweight and I hadn't pulled everything out, but it was really fun. I ran STL with that several times. I ran Honda Challenge a couple times. And then I swapped a distributor at our first Blackhawk Farms event, our first track day picnic, because we're getting into GridLife things like year 1, year 2. And I swapped a distributor, and I had a mark. I didn't have a timing light, but I had a mark because I had timed something. But I had like lost track of when I had put this distributor on. So I put it on and I ran it, and the thing was like 10 degrees off, detonated, blew up the motor, blew up the greatest little motor I ever built myself. Because this timing was off. I should have just parked it and checked the distributor or checked the timing,
Right.
But like I had at one time timed it on some other motor that, but it was definitely, I did one lap and I'm like, that smells different. And then blam, like it literally smelled different because it was running so different.
Right.
So I screwed that one up. And then a buddy of mine, still on the CRX, this cursed Y49 CRX. This car was not cursed with me, except for like, yeah, it was cursed. But there was a couple of good years where this thing just loved being a race car. Like I never had bad sessions. Car was always solid. It was great. Racing STL and ITA, like you're in mixed class racing, and it never put me in it didn't, but I mean, I always got out of the bad spots, like somebody chops you off, or like, you're like, wow, that was close. I had so many, wow, that was close moments.
Yeah.
Like racing Honda Challenge at Road Atlanta. I had never been on Road Atlanta. I'm out on my second warm-up lap. This is before we did a Road Atlanta festival. So I went down to see what the place was and drive it and get to know it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd never driven there before. I'd watched some video, but even back then, like, I didn't watch much video. I didn't even know what YouTube was in 2015 or whatever, like barely. I didn't watch much in-car video. So like, I'll figure it out. I never had trouble figuring out a racetrack, right? And I get on Road Atlanta what's the fast one? Thunder or Lightning? I forget.
Yeah.
The fast run group. With NASA.
Thunder. With NASA.
Thunder, yeah. So there wasn't any Honda Challenge 2 cars except for me. So they're like, just jump in the Honda Challenge 1. You can run for some contingency. There was then it made like 6 of us or whatever in Honda Challenge.
Right.
Like, all right. And I didn't know that bumped me up into the fast one. In my first lap, like a turbo Porsche passes me. I'm on the back straight heading towards turn 10A. And he passes me like 180 miles an hour.
Oh,
and I saw him coming. And when he passed me, like the aero wake of the car, like sucked my car sideways a little bit. And I was like, what have I done? Like, where am I? What's going on? I just drove forever to get here. And it was the furthest I had driven to race before or since, since at the time. And so I'm intimidated, but the car like never got into trouble with me.
Mm-hmm.
It had a great battle in the races there was Spec E30 was in there also. So there was plenty of like cars around my speed, but there was just some really fast shit at the front.
Right.
The car was a great race car. Loved being a race car. Then blows up. And then a buddy of mine, I think I had done construction work for him or something. He was flipping cars at the time, and he was buying projects on Craigslist. And he texted me, and he's like, "You know anything about B18C1s?" And I just blown this car up, and I was like, "Yeah, I know about those." And he's like, "How much is one worth? Yeah, will you give me $1,000 for one? It won't run. Or for a car with one, it won't run." And I was like, "Yeah, I'll do that." And so I buy this EF hatch with a poorly swapped. The wiring is all wrong.
Right. As they tend to be.
I'd done a bunch of multi-points. Yeah, multi-point wiring is just wrong, right? And so I knew, he had done some of the dual point to multi-point to OBD1 swap wrong. And so I spent about 20 minutes working on the wiring, fire it right up. This thing sounds great. Pull the valve cover off. It looks amazing. It's even got one of them fake Mugen valve covers, So I'm like, well, I think this is my new STL motor. I pull it out. I sold the trans, which was like not a good LS trans, like a crunchy and bad. I sold it for like $200. Bought an ITR, JDM ITR trans, which had the 4.7 or whatever. Kept the factory diff. Took the engine mounts, which were old school Hasports. Texted Brian from Hasport, sent him pictures of them. He's like, "Those are gems. Let me send you new ones." And so he sent me new mounts. I bought the shift linkage from him. I put it into the CRX, my first B swap that I had ever personally done.
Mm-hmm.
The only time I ever owned a dual cam VTEC so far. Car was great. Made like 182 wheel, just with hand me down everything. It was still really low budget. I was tuning it with Chrome, I believe, like cheap. This is like 2014, 15. I don't know. GridLife. We had just started GridLife.
Okay.
16, probably 16. We'd done a couple events, basically. We'd done like 3 or 4 GridLife events. And it was pretty good, but I was broke. Like I didn't have any money. So I'm starting to rent it out, and support for weekends, and I'm renting it out for way too cheap. I got a newborn kid at home. I rented it to Tom O'Gorman to qualify for the SEC runoffs. Rented it to a couple other buddies to do the same thing, and they started crashing into shit. I'm like, damn, bodywork sucks.
Yeah, it does.
Tom didn't crash in it, but a couple other guys did. But nothing bad, but like dumb little crashes. It's like, dude, now I got to find a fender, that kind of
right.
stuff.
For this car? Thanks.
Yeah, good luck finding an EF fender in Chicago that doesn't suck, And so I thought, I had been accumulating parts slowly for my red hatchback, and I was leaning towards building. I'd been pushing hard to build GLTC, right? And I thought, I'm going to build the first GLTC car, regardless of what we end up with. I'm floating ideas around groups of buddies and stuff for rule sets, and So my CRX technically, I guess, is the first GLTC car because I built it and I wrote the rule set.
Right.
But it didn't race until like the third race, but in 2019. So I thought I need to have some money. So I'm going to sell my race car EF CRX, and I sold it for $7,000. I probably could sell it for $15,000 right now, which is, it is what it is. Sold it to a dude who sold it to another dude, and that dude got a hold of me, and he's like, "Hey, how do I drive this car?" I'm like, "You just drive it. It drives great. Car's awesome." Had Whitener Racing Bilsteins on it, and it was just like a good car. It drove, rotated a little bit because it's a CRX, but he was like, "The tail comes out all the time," and I was like, "No, it doesn't. Just floor it. Try harder, dude.
Right.
Go faster."
Yeah.
And he just never messed with this car, and he crashed it in the runoffs in the kink at Road America and just bent it into an L shape.
Oh.
And I watched it happen on the live stream. And I was like, good. And like literally it says GridLife on the back window. And like so many people texted me and like, "Dude, was that your CRX?" Like 15 people watching.
Yeah.
And they all text me and like, "Yeah, that was my CRX." So we all watched that car die, which sucked. But luckily he was okay. The car had a pretty good cage in it. I liked a lot about that car. But so that was my CRX. And then I had taken that money and I had bought, all the rest of the little bits. I was basically going to replicate my D15 version of the CRX in my EF hatchback. Mm-hmm. And I'd spent about a year putting the cage in myself. It's like a 17-point like cage designed around exit and entrance and egress. Like, so the seats move back. I can use the entire window. I can stand up and pop out the window. There's lots of room, right? Mm-hmm. Cause I'm like, I don't want to die in a shitty old Honda. So I'm going to make this thing because my CRX, had the seat in the normal spot and I got a containment seat. I'm like, man, that's going to suck if I light on fire.
Yeah.
So I moved the seat way back so I can use the entire window. So the containment is behind the B pillar. Move the pedal box because I was building it for GLTC, so I can put an aftermarket pedal box in now. The first iteration actually had the aftermarket pedal box with push rods pushing on the OEM pedals because I thought maybe I'll race STL a little bit. And you weren't allowed to remove the OEM pedals in STL.
Right.
So I did do that dumb shit for a little while, but then I put master cylinders in the OMP pedal box or OBP pedal box and redid my brakes a little bit and made it nicer. But once I decided that I think I'm too deep into this GridLife thing, I don't have time to race STL or Honda Challenge 2 right now.
No, so, you don't. You don't have time today.
No, I don't. And we had done some champ car races also. Like we'd done all kinds of other little stuff, but and now, and that's now that's my race car, and I've raced probably half a dozen GLTC weekends with it, or maybe 10 of them, and it's had different drivetrain like every year because I'm stupid, but it's still the Tinker project. I love playing with it, and it's the forever car. And if it gets written off, I've got a rust-free shell in my buddy's attic in his barn. Like literally lift it up into his barn attic just in case I need it. So, yeah.
I mean, I forgot to mention on the intro, you have air jacks too. So,
oh, it does have $300. They were $100 a pop. They're used Daytona prototype air jacks from a car that actually competed at the 24-hour in like 2002. So.
Yeah, I'm still jealous. I want air jacks on my car, but
Larry Chen featured it in like 2000 or 2021 maybe.
Yeah,
I think we shot it in 2020. We shot it in peak COVID, like in like March of 2021. So I'm like wearing a mask, looking like a weirdo nowadays, and that was right after I put the air jacks on. It was on the 3-spoke Advans. It had Lambo doors. It had the Subaru GC8 front bumper on it. And Larry's like, "What is it?" He had seen it at Autobahn the year before when it had a Jackson blower. And then I put an NA Accord motor in it, made it do a D-Series trans with an Bisimoto adapter plate, which was I had that same setup in there with a turbo, like in 2007 when it ran 10s and stuff or low 11s. Ran low 11s, but it trapped like a mid 9 mile per hour. I just couldn't drive it and didn't have money for slicks. It trapped like 130 something miles an hour, but it was a fast car when it was a turbo F. But yeah, it was an old Larry Chen video back when it was Hoonigan autofocus before he got the channel from Hoonigan. So that was kind of an honor to be featured in that. And it was also in Super Street in like 09 in its like street race at Turbo F-Series format.
This is how I know you're busy and we're both old because COVID was so long ago for you.
It feels like 1,000 years ago, dude.
Right.
It feels like 1,000 years ago that the government tried to steal GridLife from us.
So
that was a hard year.
Yeah, I don't envy.
Obviously, a hard year for everybody that got sick. That's a hard year. Everybody that like lost their job or couldn't go to work. That's a hard. Like everything about that year sucked.
Yeah,
like, it sucked. There was nothing great about it at all.
And then you're in the business of service where people need to come to you, but you're not allowed to have that occur.
Well, I also like my construction business actually did great because it was a dead month, but we had plenty of work to do. Nobody bought anything. But we were considered an essential worker or whatever. So I was like, you know what? I can't afford to like not work. So F it. I don't care what the government says. I bought a bunch of the temporary walls. Like I would go into somebody's house and like the first few weeks, people were like nervous and like over the phone, we're talking to them like, yeah, you ordered this patio door. We can put it in. We'll put up flexi wall or what are they called? They're like plastic walls, but I got these things that you hold them up, you know? So I'd literally build like walls and like just work by myself, and people would like sit in their driveway in their car because they were so nervous. It was bizarre. It was a bizarre time, man. But I barely took a day off of work.
There's still people like that, by the way.
I know. There was some people that literally like they would sit in their driveway while I worked in their house, and they like wanted me to. Like they wanted tests. They wanted me to prove that I was not sick. So I'd have to show them a test through the window. And yeah, it was a weird time. I might've got it one time. I don't know. I was always out in the world, just had to keep working. So didn't have a choice.
Right.
But yeah, I do feel bad for the people that like couldn't work and like had their life taken from them. I mean, it feels like the biggest civil liberty violation of all time, but weird time.
Yeah. And we're sort of past it. So hopefully people are moving on, staying healthy.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm not pointing fingers at anybody's choices. Like that was none of us knew anything.
That's freedom.
Even the government didn't. Yeah. Government didn't know. Nobody knew anything. We were all idiots.
Yeah, we are. So what you were racing SCCA and Honda Challenge, what motivated you to dream up the GridLife?
Mixed challenge or mixed class racing isn't my favorite thing in the world. Okay. That's GridLife Touring Cup. The number. So the first iteration was written as a 3-class rule set. And I thought, what am I doing? I don't like mixed class racing. Mixed class racing, for people that don't race, is you have an allotted amount of time for a race. And if you don't fill that session, you lose money. As a sanctioning body, as a promoter, or whatever. And I thought, man, the thing I don't like the most is that, like, as a spectator, like your wife, your husband, whoever you're there with, they don't know who's racing anybody else. Like, they're like, oh, what, the Miata's not in the same class as that Civic? That Corvette's in a different class? That, like, who's winning?
Right.
The context isn't there for a spectator. You can't broadcast mixed class racing. And we were starting to dabble with live stream stuff in 2018. You can broadcast single class racing. It looks great. And also, like, I was racing both of those groups and enduro. And I'm like, man, it'd be really hard to watch a Lemons enduro and be like captivated. Be really hard to watch a 40-minute regional Sunday race for SCCA and be like captivated as somebody who's like interested but not deep into it. So that's where some of the format changes came up, where it was like, all right, well, you still got to get a bunch of races in racing. What do you want to do? You want to do all the fun of the start, all the fun of the first 3 laps, all the fun of the last 3 laps. So like, why isn't that the whole race? Like, let's do a 15-minute super sprint. And so for people that aren't into the GLTC world, the format is practice, qual sets race 1. Race 1 is based on qual, obviously. Race 2 is based on finishing position fastest lap of race 1. Race 3 is based on finishing position of race 2. Race 4 is based on finishing position of race 3 with a random invert of the top. It's the top 25%. Usually it's the top 10. And you roll a dice, or you do a random number generator. But now I put in the rules that there is actually a dice roll, and the winner gets to roll the dice, so they know that it's not rigged. So the winner actually will get to. Oh yeah. But literally, like Renee or Scott or myself, whoever's the race director, like when we start that race 3, we don't know what the invert is, because we don't we don't want to tell the drivers, oh, the invert's going to be 7. So then we got people racing for P7 so they can get on pole in race 4. So yeah, we want the purest racing possible. And obviously it's a cumulative points throughout the weekend. So you still want to finish the best you can in race 3. But yeah, just the format and the style of it, and also the speed of it, like the pace of those cars. A lot of that was very deliberately chosen to like fit a sweet spot between a lot of things. You can like detune to this or up tune to that, existing race car into it. And largely, I mean, we've played with a little bit of BOP, but like even year 1 and year 2, you look at it and the top 10 cars are on sometimes on the same lead second, 2 seconds in qualifying, second or half a second in qualifying, and like second or 2 seconds in a race. And so I'm really proud of the progression of the drivers. That's the thing I actually didn't, and also like I'm proud of the rules and proud of the people that helped me write those rules. But like the progression and the pace of these drivers is absolutely incredible. Like these cars are now on 200 treadwears, and like not the fastest ones either.
Right. You restricted those.
Yeah. Like, yeah, you can't run like a CRS or AO52 or a Vitor P1 or whatever. Like you can't run those. It's an allowed tire block, and like they're running faster than people in other classes, similar power to weight on Hoosiers by like multiple seconds.
Yeah.
And for track record pace. So it's really just a group of people that has pushed themselves so hard. And I think that you see that in a lot of sports, like, sport du jour, like if there was 15 people doing sport du jour versus 10,000 people, and the competition was the same, like the 10,000 people are going to push each other more than the 15 people maybe.
Absolutely.
But like it's really like the core group of drivers, like the core top 20, top 30 drivers have, they're sharing data, they're seeing what somebody else does, so they know it's possible. Like you didn't know that you could do a backflip until you saw your friend do a backflip, and you're like, I can do a backflip too, that kind of stuff. So it's really just a traveling circus of drivers that have pushed themselves so hard. So yeah.
Yeah. So I remember, I know earlier you said that Facebook killed the forums, but I remember let's say back in the day, just because I feel old today. You posted on the forum that shall not be named, or is that the other forum that they divorced from to create that forum about you starting this rule? This class. And so I watched the hundreds of pages of development and spitballing from the community.
Oh yeah. The when we released the rule set in 2018, it was on Christmas Day, I believe. And I was so nervous, and Chris was like not ready. He was like, dude, I don't know if we can do this. And I was like, yes, we can do this. I'd spent so much time just getting insurance approval to do wheel to wheel,
right? That
I was like, bro, we are going to do this. And so we put it up. I don't know how to use the website still. So we I got Chris to post it.
Right.
And then people found it. And then suddenly it was shared all over the place. And then I was so nervous because I had been on multiple rules committees at the time. I think I was actually still on the Super Touring Advisory Committee for the STAC for SEC club racing. Because I'd been hosting events for 10 years with my buddy. And I thought, I'd love to help. How can I help? And so I would just try to help I was talking to people on the Honda Challenge Committee. I talked to the president all the time there, talked to multiple different, not presidents, but chairmen or whatever they call it for the rules committees. Anything I was interested in, I was like trying to be a part of it, trying to help steer it, trying to offer my opinions and stuff, not trying to be the boss, but trying to offer my opinions. I was so nervous that everybody was gonna hate this rule set. Because, people are naysayers. And if it's different, this was definitely different. Like nobody had tried to do a single class of sprint racing in the amateur world, I think since Spec Miata, maybe. And Spec Miata started as a group in a mixed class racing,
Right. I think they only got their own run groups because of the size that it grew to.
Yeah, because of size. Yeah. And even right now, I had raced with Spec Miata in SEC regional stuff where it was Spec Miata, it was Spec Racer Ford, it was ITA, B, and C.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, not every Spec Miata is a standalone run group, you know? You got to fill those groups and you got to sell the event. So, and I get that. But like, we basically, I was like, let's roll the dice, dude. Let's try it. Like, if we get 25 cars, we're the winners. I think the first race at Mid-Ohio, and we were broadcasting the first race, and Tom was calling it with me. Tom was a great caller, a race caller too. And I was just a nervous Nell shitting my pants. Ended up being like literally, it was a 5-race weekend. Actually, it was before we had changed the format to a 4-race weekend. The first weekend was a 5-race weekend. They were all utterly exhausted at the end of Sunday.
Yeah.
But everybody was like, it was 30 cars or whatever. And several have been built for that. Like they had, in 3 months, they had built cars. And instantly it was like, it was GLTC. So I think a lot of the right people helped, and Mid-Ohio was definitely the right place to start the season. I think by Midwest Festival, we had 50 cars, and that was the second race ever.
Mm-hmm.
We were almost at our capacity literally the first season. We did Midwest Festival, Autobahn, Pikes Peak International Raceway, Road Atlanta, and our closing event, our October event at Gingerman that year. So that was our first season. And I think the smallest field was Pikes Peak, and it was still like 18 cars or whatever. And that's like 1,000 miles from anybody.
Right. In the middle of nowhere.
Like literally a track nobody's ever heard of except for when GridLife went. So no offense to anybody that loves PPIR, but like I hadn't heard of it until Chris was like, "You ever heard of PPIR?" They called us. Great place to throw a party too. And actually a really fun place to watch racing. PPIR has got a lot of things to love about it. Cause you can kind of stand in the middle and just like spin around in circles near the infield and like watch the entire race. The only time you can't see what's going on is like when they go by the tower, if you're in the middle of it. But, yeah, that was, we raced in the dark twice that year.
Oh, wow.
We raced in the dark. We, under the lights, quote unquote, at PPIR, which was still pretty freaking dark. And then at Gingerman, we bought a bunch of street lamps, and because it gets dark pretty fast in October, we're like, let's just go till 9. And I brought 12 generators, one for every turn, or 11 generators. I literally had an enclosed trailer full of generators, borrowed, bagged, like half of them my dad's, my brother's. We had a street lamp or 2 for every apex, like literally like a parking lot lamp, and mounted to like a 2-inch pole. And we had to like backlight the apexes so it's not in everybody's eyes, but so they could see where the apex was, you know?
Right.
So literally like our last race of the year, we're racing in the dark. And Chris is up on Spectator Hill lighting fireworks, and it's bucket raining. It was a super memorable way to end the year, and nobody crashed. I couldn't believe it. So, didn't do that again, but it was a super memorable way to end the year.
Yeah, that's what legends are made out of, when you have stories to tell, right?
It was freaking nuts. And the first year was also special because we didn't have a season champion. It was going to be an individual weekend championship, so that just so it's different, you know, like
right.
We went to the season championship because of the pressure of the drivers and of like just to be normal. But I really liked it that first year when there was no season champion, even though there kind of was. Catil kind of won, you know. You can just add up all the points. And Catil won, but Lichty was almost there, and Emil Tab was almost there also. Like we had a really good P1 through 3, but yeah, it was special that first year. It was really, really special. So.
Yeah. So you described it as a traveling road show, and that's still what it is today. And I think
pretty much,
I think you've broke the mold, because NASA and SCCA, let's just call them in the grassroots world, some argue, and on many podcasts it's been argued, you guys are semi-pro, and in the grassroots level.
Who's saying that? I'm going to punch them in their nose.
I'll give you a list.
It really is kind of, it's kind of semi-pro, unfortunately.
Unfortunately,
but it's not.
But NASA and SCCA are regionally based. SCCA has these, the special ones. I can't even remember what they're called anymore.
They got the majors,
the
and
majors,
then
and then the runoffs. Yeah, and then NASA has the regions, and then their national championship week, essentially. But instead of being a region, you guys take the show on the road to the people.
We literally bought a semi-trailer last year and hire people to tug it around the country because we have so much crap to take with us.
Yeah.
We bring like an entire arcade with us. We bring so much stuff to especially the larger events. Bought an old 53-foot Kentucky moving trailer after our CMP event because we hated renting a semi-trailer so much that we're getting a lower one. So I found us a moving trailer. But so like SCCA majors stuff, like the national office is kind of involved. They're like at the events, but it's still regionally ran. So you get a different flavor at all these events. NASA, same thing. People are like, oh, I only race with NASA Great Lakes because Jay's awesome. I only race with NASA Southeast because blah, 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 blah. You get a different flavor. Typically it's like the same flavor, but it might be a totally different flavor. We sort of blossomed into this national thing without wanting to do it. It just kind of happened.
Boy, did
so
it.
We started out the first, literally I think almost everybody on the podiums at Laguna Seca, where our season ended last year, a Chicago-based company. We ended at Laguna Seca. Most of our drivers are within a 5-hour radius of our core drivers are within a 5-hour radius of Chicago.
Right.
Almost every, I think all but 2 people on the entire podium, GLTC, all 6 time attack classes. I think all of them were regular drivers that drove over 25 hours to be there. So it's not just us, it's the drivers that are kind of the traveling circus, but they also bring the vibes. They're kind of like the reason that we exist. The first time we went to any place far was Mid-Ohio, and that was 5 hours away. And everybody was like, man, Mid-Ohio, that's amazing. The next year we went to Road Atlanta, and 70% of the paddock was our regulars. And so the vibe is these people bring the camping, barbecue, hangout vibe that we really strived to build with West Michigan Honda Meet back in 04, 05, 06, 07. So it's if you bring smiles and the right attitude and you try, it's really tough with racers to get them to drop the ego and remember to have a good time. But I think if it's possible anywhere, it's possible at our events, because even my drivers meeting, there's plenty inside jokes, and I make fun of at least 3 drivers in every drivers meeting. But people pay attention because you're not just okay, here's the flags, I think I've been told I do the best drivers meetings, but I also craft them and put it's like a stand-up routine. I try to make it good.
Right.
Because I got to practice it because half the time I'm hungover because I hung with these idiots.
Yeah.
So it's there's a lot of little touch points that accidentally became things that we needed to keep doing because we're well, what did we do at Honda Meet? Let's keep doing that. And a lot of it has it's blossomed into this national thing because, we started going further west. There was a lot of call to hey, come run at Button Willow. It's hard to get a date at Button Willow. We haven't been there yet, but we went to Willow Springs a bunch of times, and now we're hosting some GLTC races next year. We did our first West Coast GLTC last year. Previously, the furthest we had been was PPIR and COTA as a support series for Superlight Battle. But we drag our drivers drive a long ways, and they bring a pretty good vibe with them. So
and I think the personalities are sort of that they bring that consistency, but I think they're sort of the reason people say semi-pro, right? Because
there's some bad MFers racing GLTC.
and not only that, but we talked a little bit before we hit the record button, but you guys are basically sold out.
Yeah, the sales. So that's a problem that for Midwest Festival has always been a problem. And for Honda Meet,
right.
2010, 11, 12, those were sellout events in under 10 minutes. And then it just kept getting faster and faster. And to the point where most of the core events for Gold Pass, which is allotted this year, we allotted basically 2/3 of the competition tickets to Gold Pass. Most of those were sold out, especially for Time Attack, in under 2 minutes. So like that's a hard problem. We actually had like problems this year where it was selling so fast that we oversold our target quantities by like 10 spots because Stripe and our sales thing couldn't reference and check inventory fast enough. Like like they were only checking every 30 seconds and they needed to check every 2 or something.
Yeah, that's a
like,
good problem to have, and then a bad.
It's so stupid.
Yeah.
Like, So I got like 10 extra spots at a couple of these events because like literally Stripe doesn't respond fast enough. I guess I don't know. I don't quite understand it. You still there?
Yeah,
I'm
here.
Hit my computer.
Yeah, you're
okay.
Good.
I had my computer in my earbuds. It made a boing noise. I got off it went black screen. So, but yeah, it's a hard problem to have. But it's like it's pretty humbling that some of these drivers have driven this for like 8 seasons, 9 seasons.
Yeah,
and I think the average amateur competition driver drives for 3 seasons. Across the last 25 years, 3 to 5 seasons is what I've heard and been told by people in multiple organizations, like including Trans Am. Like you do 3 seasons and you're done. So, like I hope as these tracks get more expensive and these events get crazier, like obviously the entry fee is not $80.
No, it's not.
But I hope we can keep, and we're going to like Laguna Seca we got unlimited sound days. You know, like unlimited sound costs like,
it's rare.
I think I want to say it's like also an extra like 30 G's a day.
Are there like 5 events or 3 to 5 events a year?
Yeah, So our event last year was the only amateur event to have unlimited sound on a weekend. Okay. I think in the past 20 years, I was told.
Oh wow. Okay.
So I think even the SCCA runoffs had sound limits on them. So.
Yeah. And the fact that they're selling out that quickly just shows the dedication of the drivers. And to some of us, I mean, I don't personally run this way, but most of the people that I know are running, well, I can afford this event now. A couple weeks, right. Maybe I'll buy another event. But you guys are selling out 2/3 of your event off the break
in January.
Yeah.
Right.
So
it's a weird problem. And like not one that I want, but also like you're kind of grateful to have that kind of loyalty. And so that's the thing that I really, you don't want to push the pricing, even though we're spending so much money on these things that like literally couldn't even break even in most of these events with just drivers. We have to like sell them t-shirts and we have to have season partners and all this stuff. Mm-hmm. But thanks to the support of season partners and the merch purchases and the spectators, like you can produce like a ridiculously expensive live stream at a club weekend sometimes. And most of the time, like try to work it close to breaking even,
Right.
It's not the most profitable or a profitable company, but like we're skipping across the water and we're still here. So just trying to keep reinvesting and building every year. And a lot of smart people helping along the way.
Yeah. So let's get a little bit into the meat and potatoes. I'm sure many people understand what GLTC is in general, but let's give the high points of the class. And some of the mark notes I have is you guys warned them of a potential mid-season rules change.
Oh, I didn't just warn. I said that there would be this year.
Right.
So,
right.
And largely like the BOP has been pretty solid. If you look at the actual, like we pull a lot of AIM solo data, and then there's also a group like that shares it all with themselves. So like they all have the data too. It really does seem like there's one tire that's like the main outlier last year. And because all the people that were winning qualifying were on brand new certain tire. so they built a really good tire. That tire might have got 3% this year. Okay. 3% extra weight. Data shows that in qualifying, it might even need 6%. So, qualifying first session on that certain tire is a very fast session. Its opening session is very good after you scrub it for a couple of turns. But But largely, GLTC is a 12.5 to 1 power to weight. And that's your base power to weight. And so you take your horsepower, you divide it by 0.08, I believe, is our backwards math. And then that gets you your base weight. And then you get modifiers for if you don't choose aero, if you do choose aero. There are some different aero groups. Like if you take a splitter and a wing, you're allowed a 3-inch splitter protrusion from the vertical surface, from the nearest vertical surface being air dam, whatever. You're allowed a 702-inch square inch wing, 702 square inch wing, which is roughly like the base 9 lives. Zebulon makes one, a bunch of them make that wing.
Yeah.
We're aiming more for like good club racing pace, cool looks, but also like you don't need like the 3D crazy invader bumper in the wing and all the crazy things. Like try to keep the costs a little bit in line. There are modifiers for detune, and then we've changed that a few times throughout the seasons. But largely, you get a big V8 and your weight weighs X. So you're like, oh, I need to make 235 horsepower. But you're going to make that for 5,000 RPMs. So you're going to be at your peak horsepower when you leave a corner versus little B18 boy is going to be screaming all the way to red line, but ain't going to have a whole lot coming out of the corner. So you have to weigh an extra 5.5, 6, 8%, depending on, how flat your power band is. So is
that where the new calculator comes in?
So the calculator's not done. It exists, but I don't love all of its outputs. It's pretty close. Largely the calculator, with the help of several drivers, has been created to effectively choose the highest 3,100 RPMs and take a data point every 100 RPMs. And basically it uses those maths and not quite an average, but not an average kind of thing to spit out your modifier, which is pretty close to what I want. But the other thing is nobody has that dyno data for the most part. Most people just have a graph. So if we made that a rule now, even if I liked it, everybody would be like, well, I don't have that.
Yeah, they'd have to get the file from their tuner and then...
Right.
Yeah.
And most tuners don't know how to spit out that Excel file either.
Right.
So it's actually pretty easy, but we now own a mobile chassis dyno that I drag behind me to all kinds of places, or somebody else drags it for me. So we'll have that at COTA. We'll have that at least one California round this year. Yeah, to get your data file, you got to know how to give it to somebody. So we're going to be giving people data files. We're going to be taking the first 3 months of competition stuff, and making sure we like the calculator, and it will be there for reference probably for the second half of the year.
Okay.
But right now we've basically given guidelines of roughly here's your displacement, and if you have so much flat, you have to add this, whatever. So if you read the rules, it's pretty self-explanatory. Part of the reason I don't want to just go to a calculator or just go to a judged power band, which was in the initial draft, is because we are doing some far away events that I want somebody to be able to read the rules and know what they need to be.
Right.
So if somebody has a completely stock tune 96 GSR and they just need to know what their wheel horsepower is, they know they're not going to take any modifiers because that's an angular power band, and they know what they're going to have to weigh. I don't want them to have to be nervous, bring extra weight get on the dyno at the event.
Right.
I want people to be able to read the rules and be able to know where they stand within at least 1%. So largely that's been the goal of the provisional rules and now the firmed up rules for the year. But rules are hard, man. It's been more and more daunting. The last couple of years, it's been more and more daunting each year to put them out. But the parity also, the biggest goal we want, especially in time attack, is we want a home for a lot of cars and we want really good parity.
Right.
And even in some of the time attack classes where you'd think, oh, you can do a lot of different stuff. We're seeing 1 second deltas between the top 6, top 5. Club TR, I think at Lime Rock, we had a half a second across the top 7 drivers, and they're running as fast as GLTC because they're roughly GLTC cars too. So the parity's there. The competition is fun. The podium ceremonies, especially at the festival rounds, which happen on Saturday night, typically like we'll get 1,000 people at the podium. And it feels so good. Like it's such a great vibe. Because not everybody's left because it's not Sunday afternoon,
Right.
But yeah, at our festival events, a 3-day event. So Friday, Saturday are heavy competition. And then there is the last dash for P5 and beyond in Time Attack on Sunday morning. But the podium happens on Saturday night. And sometimes it happens on the main stage if we got a concert. So like, yeah, some of them are really fun. The Lime Rock podium on the big hill on Spectator Hill, we probably had 500 people on Spectator Hill. And it was like the rowdiest crowd I'd ever talked to. It was so great. So yeah, the goal is to like build the event that you want to go to. And what's the event you want to go to? Like, I don't know. It's the coolest event. So try to build the coolest event. And if you keep trying with that goal, you'll refine it down, and the people that want to go there will find it and they'll tell their friends. And then you got a bunch of cool MFers coming to a cool event and you're having the best time.
Yeah.
So yeah, as long as we can keep that goal and keep going towards it.
So those aspiring to run GLTC, you really need to read these rules because there's diversity. There's vets, there's
tons of it.
Coutilles, 4-door Civic, there's 8th gen
TSXs,
Civics, there's
S2000s,
swap
Caymans,
Miatas, non-swap Miatas. There's all sorts of stuff going on, right?
In the past year, we had, I think the cars that won, obviously Corvettes won, especially on the tire started with N.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a Cayman win. We had TSX almost win the season. Houghton could have won the season if he wanted to. He made one off at Lime Rock and then he gave up. We had an EK Civic almost win at Laguna. We had S2000s win, a bunch of them. What else? We had something else win. I think we had a BMW. Yeah, we had a BMW win, an E36 and an E46, I believe. I mean, it's a pretty good amount of a Civic. Coutil won last year. Yeah, a lot of diversity. And
bring your widget.
Integra. Do we have an Integra win? Yeah, like build your better mousetrap. Like when you look at the rules, you should be like, oh, I got that. I got a car that I could make win that. And that's kind of the brain worm that I want to put in everybody's head when they read those rules and be like, oh man, that'd be really fun. Pretty open rule set, kind of like the things that make speed are the things that are regulated, not like must have OEM windshield washer bottles.
Right.
Like that
Nobody
doesn't
cares about that.
No, like, oh man, I could build a cool little car for that. That's the car I want to build. Like in any of our rule sets, like really what I'm thinking about, like Abe and I in Time Attack, and I bounce the GLTC rules off of half a dozen people every winter, is like, I'm personally thinking still, like you want somebody to look at that rule set for the first time and be like, damn, I could build my dream car and race at the same time and not have to make 25 compromises. I might have to like pull my horsepower back 50.
Right.
But I could build the car that I want to build. And if we get it right, the things that make speed, like actually make speed, are controlled. And like we had somebody almost bring a Viper V10 to GLTC, and I'm like, I'm not worried about it.
Right.
If it makes the horsepower to weight, and fits inside the allowed weight brackets, I think 4,000 is our max.
Mm-hmm. For safety purposes, you can only build a cage
I don't want to
stiff.
Yeah, I don't want to bring a 5,200 pound car and then try to race my 1,700 pound EF against it.
Yeah.
Like that does not sound. I mean, I would trust my cage, but like only so much. So, yeah. But yeah, if you want to detune, you want to take 600 horsepower out of a car. I mean, I guess. So, it does make me feel bad when people, because we were a support series for NASCAR, and after that at Road America this year, and after that I got a bunch of weird inquiries. Like, damn, that was fun. It was really fun to meet you guys in the paddock. I was there watching, NASCAR and Porsche Carrera Cup. I didn't know who you guys were. I talked to you on the dyno when you were running some Corvette. I got this vintage Camaro SVRA car, and I run the same lap times as you guys, but I read your rules, and I think I have 300 horsepower too much. And then you think like, yeah, I can't tell them.
Yeah, I mean,
I can't tell them. You feel bad. Like I'm running like only like a second faster than you guys, but like it says I got to take out 422 horsepower out of my Mustang. And I'm like, yeah, Yeah, you might.
Yeah. So I think the real magic is that it's a builder's class, right? So you have a bunch of thinkers because they're like, how do I build this mousetrap to go?
Yeah, thinkers and tinkerers.
Yep.
Yeah.
But then they also can drive. And so
some of them can drive, and they've made the ones that can't drive, they've made them drive real well.
Right. And
you have to.
And one of the mantras in this podcast is the more people in your class to race with, the faster you're going to go. You're kind of forced that
100%.
way. You know, the guys behind 100%. You will chase you down. And if you're not chasing the guy in front of you, they're getting past you. So everybody's working hard. They from last to first, you know, even the rabbit up front's got to run faster, you know?
Yeah. You're running from a pack of wolves there. You know? Like you look at, I remember there was like half a dozen people on the forum that shall not be named, that had screen like signatures that said something about like the fastest car on a racetrack at any given moment is a Spec Miata and like stuff like that. And it's like, it's because those drivers had to figure it out.
Yeah.
Like you can't fix it with horsepower. You got 132, you got 121, you know, like ITA cars back in the day, back when like 06, 07, when I was watching it and not part of it,
right? Like
there was at any given race, there'd be like 25, 30 ITA cars. And guess what was way faster than it should have been? ITA, like fast ITC even. Like you got a bunch of 78 horsepower Civics and stuff on 225 Hoosiers crammed onto a 5.5-inch steel wheel. Guess what was fast? ITC was fast because there was 25 of them.
Yep.
Honda Challenge, early days, Spec E30, Spec E46. Like you get a big group of dudes together, you get a big bunch of people driving. Like, yeah, they're gonna be fast. So
yeah.
It's fun to watch when you get a bunch of people in one spot, because especially if they have never raced each other before, like some of them might pick up like 5-6 seconds across the weekend because they just have to.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Desperation, you know, breeds ingenuity and they'll figure out how to make it happen. So
yeah, you're looking at data, you're looking at whatever you gotta do. Yeah. You're changing the alignment. You're like, you know, trying to cut weight,
asking friends,
you're sawing
whatever they can do.
You're sawing your bumper supports off in the middle of the paddock in the middle of the night, so you can drop 50 pounds. Like, yeah, you're looking for everything.
Yeah. So I have one last GLTC question. Now I just perused the rules, so I might be the 2024 rules, so I might be off, but I didn't see the ban hammer or the big nerf to the vets like I saw with the S2000s in the past and the K series motors.
Well, so there was already a big ban hammer on the vets. The biggest thing that I said, like I said earlier, the biggest thing that we actually saw making pace was that tire.
Okay.
That tire got 3%. That tire got 3%. And big power band last year, I want to say it was 5.5, and the same power band, like big power band meaning big flat ones. Mm-hmm. The same power band this year is probably going to be pushing 8. If you look at like what they actually make for flat power, it's going to be 7 or 8, maybe 9 in some cases. And everybody talks about that ban hammer that the S2000s got after Tom and Andy basically won 3/4 of the races. Right. And like that was, they got like effectively 1.5%. Like they didn't get that much. They lost their like really good tire, but they got 1.5%. They didn't actually get that much. There was
just out.
There's always been changes.
You know, people.
Yeah.
People.
DJ and Tom were. DJ and Tom were real loud for a little while.
Right. Indeed.
But guess what also won a bunch of races this year and last year is S2000
with a K series.
Yeah. The goal is to like find all the pieces that, and then eventually not change anything, but we're still only on our 6th year now. So
yeah, you're trying to strike a balance. You're not trying to put somebody in the hole. So,
and also like the thing that we saw when did Tom win? Tom won in 2022. The thing that we saw in 2022 was, it's almost the same thing we saw in 2023. And also we saw it in like 2021 with some other cars, like with the K-Swap Miatas. Remember when everybody was like, oh, K-Swap Miatas, they're going to rule everything. Well, they were pretty good.
Yeah.
But it's because a bunch of bad MFers were building K-Swap Miatas and sharing data. And then ASM built like 8 identical or whatever, 6 identical S2000s, and then brought in a bunch of like crushers to drive with them, even if they weren't even driving S2000s. Robert Thorne's driving with them. He might be one of the best wheelmen on the planet, like probably top 100 in the planet. Thorne could drive anywhere. Same with Tomo. He's an elite talent. And if they had the money and the backing, they could literally drive anywhere. And Bryant Heitcotter, I'm sure of it. Like 3 elite talents running in GLTC in 2023, 2022. But yeah, ASM brought a bunch of cars together, shared a bunch of data, and went really fast.
Yep.
And they all trained each other up. They went really fast. And the Corvettes, previously, it was like Swenson dinking around by himself, almost winning everything. And then all of a sudden, Gary Wimble and Luke McGrew and Eric Meadows, and then Matan Rosenberg, and like a bunch of them. They got like Corvettes. They figured them out. The C5s are cheap. Turns out you got to change just about everything to make them optimal. But like even G Speed brought a car out to Coda. Like they're all sharing data. They're all coaching each other up. They're all testing things.
Yep.
And guess who got a whole lot faster last year? The people who tried really hard. Guess who got super burned out the year before and didn't try that hard last year? And sometimes the cars came to the racetrack and needed to be fixed. The S2000s. Right. Like they still won some races, but like we saw a bunch of S2000s get on the dyno. Not talking shade about anybody's prep or anything, but we saw them get on the dyno and like have to get off the dyno to be repaired and then get back on the dyno. And then sort things throughout the weekend, because these cars were like, they were ran real hard the year before.
Yeah. When you make a big push as a team and your team is only so big, things happen, you get tired.
And after 2022, ASM was like, man, we're tired.
Yeah. I can imagine.
So poor old Matt Waldbaum is like running around with like a chicken with his head cut off, trying to run from these Corvettes. Still doing really well. Lena is running pretty fast, and freaking Zach Lavoie's running pretty fast. But Matt's trying real hard still, and he's got a bunch of tired buddies helping him.
Yeah, well.
And buddies who are like, man, drifting's pretty fun. Let's do that too.
Yeah, that's an interesting change.
Yeah. Andy's one of the better drift drivers that has never been a professional drift driver. So it's and Andy was also he was support for Robert Thorne, who started drifting. He did a few parking lot events and smaller things. Then he like begged me and my drift lead Nick to get into PPIR a couple of years ago, and Nick was like, "Do you know Robert Thorne?" I was like, "Yeah, Robert Thorne's a bad MFer." I keep saying bad MFer. Sorry,
you're good. But
he was like, should we let him in? And I was like, yeah, I want to see if Robert Thorne can drift. I mean, he'd sent us a video and stuff. And he had previously been, in Pirelli World Challenge. He had won One Lap of America a bunch of times, like won solo nationals like 12 times or whatever. So him and Chris Lewis bring a V8 swap Miata with a 6-point cage in it. And they were like the people's choice in drift at PPIR that year. It was so fun to watch, like just ripping the ears off this little Miata, having a great time running with like half of the pro FD field. Then he builds a competition drift car. He wins a bunch of local events. He gets his Pro 1 license, or whatever the pro comp license. I forget what the class is called. Pro Spec. He wins the Pro Spec championship 2 years ago, and then he goes to FD. So like Andy's crewing for him in Formula Drift Pro 1. And also trying to like wrangle a bunch of Miatas across the country, left, right, and center, and run a race shop and build a car for himself. Like Andy's a busy dude. ASM, Andy Smedegaard is one of the busiest dudes.
Right.
So yeah, no wonder that just leave them on the trailer. They were fine. Like
they didn't break before. So change the oil.
Yeah. We'll change the oil when we get there.
Yeah.
So, ASM is an impressive organization that does a lot of stuff. And it's still like a grassroots shop. Like it's as grassroots as it gets. So, happy to have them in the paddock, but they couldn't have kept trying as hard as they did in 2022. They just couldn't. Like that's impossible. So, and same thing with the vets. The vets are like Those guys are probably tired. I bet you we get a bunch of Honda Civics and TSXs winning this year.
Probably. And the cycle will return. So
yeah, and then they'll be like, look at those K series. It just is what it is. Yeah, I'm just waiting for the day when Honda D series are the boogeyman in GLTC. That's when the rule set works.
When the single jingles are out there, get out.
That's right. When I'm the only guy running one and I won a race and everybody's like, the rules are broken. Yeah. So, but largely like that kind of enthusiasm from the drivers to be like, not pointing fingers, but to want the parity and to be so offended when they have to get 1%.
Yeah.
I think that's actually probably pretty good for the class, because on data on a 2 mile track, 1% is 1/10.
Okay.
Like repeatable, like it's really accurate on a 2 mile track. 1% is 1/10. It's for people to be so upset about 1% is kind of adorable. So,
yeah.
Especially when like we're dealing with amateurs still. Like these cars aren't $250,000 budgets. Most of them aren't optimized completely. We're still guessing a little bit, because you got to be like, well, what if you put a 4.7 in that car? It'd be better at like every track we raced at this year, and you still won a bunch. So like, got to do something. Yeah. Yeah. So we're still dealing with the struggles of even trusting the data, because there's in almost every car, there's still something you can do.
Right.
So
yeah, when it's not built, when it's 99%, that 1% might mean more than
that
just
1%. Yeah, that 1 or 2%, that final percent, that sim time, that like if you brought it to Multimatic and put it on like a freaking chassis rig and paid $1 million to do it, and 43 CFD computers and Jeff Braun and level 5 money.
Right.
Like, I mean, let's go. How fast can GLTC go? I don't know, but hopefully that never happens.
Well, it might.
It is still a power to weight class.
It's still power to weight.
Only go so with spec tires almost, so you can only go so crazy.
Yeah.
No.
Well, where can people find out more about GridLife, GLTC, and do you have any of those year-long sponsors and partners of GL or GridLife that you want to share?
Yeah, we're GridLife official, or grid.life. We did just get gridlife.com after a 5-year pursuit. So we finally got gridlife.com, which redirects, I think, to grid.life. My email is adam@grid.life. If anybody's got a question, I try to answer every email. Sometimes I get too many in a day and I miss a few, but that's pretty rare. I'm pretty good at email. GridLife official on Instagram, I believe, and all the other places. We got a bunch of different Facebook pages for different events and also for different series, like our Time Attack series, the NOS Track Battle Time Attack Championship. That was the first year for that. NOS was a huge partner, helping us do a bunch of festivals all over the country. Falcon's been a huge partner. Our Club TR class, the most popular Time Attack class on the planet, I believe. And the second most popular is probably Sunday Cup, the other class that's a Falcon spec class. So spec RTC are basically spec Falcon 200s. And then, Valvoline's been the greatest partner ever for a bunch of years. Like we've got a bunch of great partners. FCP Euro has been amazing. Just the companies that like keep this business afloat. Sunoco last year, amazing partner. People looking, these companies are looking for content creation abilities. They don't want to go rent a racetrack. They want to see genuine enthusiasm. And they come take pictures of people like GridLife and take videos, and it's rad. So, I'm glad to be that canvas that can, make cool content, which is great. So
you got some clout. Can you talk to the guys at FCP Euro and so they can make FCP Asia and we can get the same stuff that BMW guys get, please?
Dude, we've been in meetings like at their headquarters in Connecticut eating amazing pizza from Connecticut, which has maybe the best pizza in the world. And Chris, dude, there's some good pizza in Connecticut.
From Chicago, talking about Connecticut pizza.
Dude, there ain't nothing like New Haven pizza. Holy crap.
Okay.
East Coast knows what's up. But Chris and I are both EF Honda nerds, and we're like, yo, can you guys do some Japanese parts? And like, everybody says that.
I've been campaigning for a while, so
their warranty program is pretty impressive. The lifetime warranty for everything you buy, which is, I mean, they sell premium stuff at a halfway decent price, but like, yeah, if it breaks, they'll give you a new one, which is rad. But yeah, I would imagine it's going to be a thing someday, but right now they're focusing on their West Coast, distribution center models. So they can get things to California faster and things like that. So I would imagine someday we'll see something like that. But great company to work with. They've been a great partner for a long time. And they brought in our buddies at Liquid Moly and just advanced auto parts, like all kinds of interesting stuff. So, but yeah, I don't do all that sales. I'm on a lot of those calls, but it's very flattering that companies see us as a viable place for them to create things and to reach an audience, which is, it's like that's the thing that keeps us alive too. So we can throw these big parties that like racing entry fees don't cover $100,000 live streams.
No,
so, no, it's kind of dumb, but especially when you're in a track in the middle of the fields in Michigan, like, and the internet doesn't exist, and you got to figure out how to get it to the world, to 500,000 Twitch followers or Twitch stream watchers. So, yeah, pretty stupid times. I don't know how any of this happened.
Well, thank you for coming on, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. They also, I'll plug our podcast, The Bengal Show. If you want to listen, to some mediocrity that comes out almost every week.
Yep. And is it track.tuned is the forum? Because you're trying to bring that back.
No, forums.tracktuned.com. Okay. And it's got off the ground. It's not huge yet, but forums.tracktuned.com is our podcast website and kind of the home for several podcasts. If you need a podcast website home, let us know. We can maybe get you there. So we've been slowly trying to build like a weird network that's not a network on that website. So anyway, yeah, no, I love talking about race cars, even though often I don't want to think about race cars. But once you start getting talking and like, yeah, you get home from the track after a big weekend and you're like, I don't want to think about the racetrack, but then you get back there and you're like, oh, hey, all my friends are here. It's tough to organize those big events. But it's the people that like it, they are so easy to love. It's like the best crowd I've ever been around. So it's literally like it's an honor and a privilege to help steer the stupid ship that is GridLife.
Awesome. Well, I'll be in touch. Have a good evening. I get to wake up in 4 or 5 hours. So
I tried. I would have been half an hour early if I knew how tech worked.
It's okay. You haven't filled that part of your resume out. You got the rest of it.
No, I've got people for that, right?
Until next time, keep working on yourself, keep working on the car, and let's get faster.